Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, thank you all for joining us here this afternoon at the World Broadband Association's 2024 Broadband Development Congress here at Network X in Paris. My name is Mark Oliver. I am the Vice President of Strategic Consulting at Omdia, the research and consulting arm of Informa Tech. And not only is Omdia a very proud founder member of the World Broadband Association, but we're also delighted to provide our expertise and coverage for the WBBA's research, digital media, and events offerings. I'll be your host throughout the course of today's exciting summit. We do have just a couple of housekeeping notes before we get started. As always, please keep your mobiles to silent, of course. The event is being recorded, so please do be aware of that, and the full playback of the events will be available on the WBBA website in the coming days. For those who need to connect the Wi-Fi login, please use the Network X 2024. The password is all lowercase, Network X. And I'd also like just to take a moment to refer you to the flyers that should be on all of your seats. In those, you'll find, of course, a full rundown of today's agenda. But what you'll also find there is a summary of some of the latest WBBA research, which we will be referring to through the course of the day. But I'd very much like to actively encourage you to make use of the QR codes there to download that research, interact with it, provide your feedback, and get involved in the conversations that the WBBA is starting. So looking ahead to this afternoon's agenda, we're grateful to have some very important keynote speakers join us this afternoon and distinguished guests on both our panel and fireside chat formats. We're also delighted to be able to announce the inaugural winners of the WBBA's Broadband Excellence Awards towards the end of this afternoon's agenda, where we'll come together to celebrate innovation, dedication, and excellence in the broadband industry. I'd like to thank all of today's speakers and our sponsors, not just for the success of today's event, but for their ongoing support in the success of the World Broadband Association. If you're not already a member, again, please do use those QR codes on your flyer. Get in touch with us. Let us know how and where you would like to get involved. Come and find me at any point during this afternoon's event, and we'd be delighted to speak to you about how you can benefit from and contribute to the World Broadband Association. With all of that said, I'd like to invite our first speaker to kick us off with his welcome remarks, the Director General of the World Broadband Association, Mr. Martin Creaner.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Broadband Development Congress 2024. For those of you who have been involved with the WBBA over the last 2 years and our journey to where we are today, this will be, I think, the 6th or 7th in-person conference that we have created. And we find, whilst working online is so valuable and useful in all of the collaboration activities that we do, getting to meet people face to face and to shake hands and to have a dinner, have a coffee, have a conversation makes all the difference. And this is something that is an integral and important part of the WBBA. The formation of the WBBA, we're only 2 years old. I think we were formed officially in October 2022. So we're just coming up on our 2nd birthday. And the WBBA was founded by a group of 8 companies. These companies felt that whilst the mobile industry had an excellent industry association in the GSMA that was able to not only do collaboration work, but also certain level of standardization work and advocacy on their behalf, the fixed industry and the fixed broadband industry does not have a similar global organization. There are plenty of excellent standards organizations that are doing important key pieces of standardization work. There are plenty of excellent regional organizations that are advocating and promoting broadband in their particular regions. But within the industry, there has not up to now been a global industry organization. And so the WBBA was formed, initially with 8 founder members. Over the last 2 years, we've grown very rapidly in all aspects. Our membership has now grown to over 120 members, and as someone reminded me just a few moments ago, our goal is to have 150 members by the end of this year, and we'll probably aim to try and double that next year, because there's a huge hunger in the industry for an organization such as the WBBA. One of the key elements of any industry organization is how enabling members to collaborate with each other and to produce valuable solutions to commonly held problems. And the WBBA has, right at the very start, quite frankly, before we even were founded, we kicked off some collaboration groups to address topics of common interest. And some of those are technical topics, some of them are business-centric topics, and some are more about advocacy and influencing topics. We've got work groups on defining the roadmap of the future for broadband. Everybody is familiar with how we think in terms of mobile, of 3G, 4G, 5G, 6G. We've never had something similar to that in the broadband world, and we've introduced that within the WBBA. We've also got work groups on the key topic, and you're going to hear more about this today, on topics such as AI and on how the network and the cloud are becoming indistinguishable and need to be developed in synchronicity to each other in an elastic sense. We've got business topics that look at areas like the sustainability and the challenges of sustainability, both the financial business case underpinning better sustainability in the broadband industry, and also how the broadband industry improves sustainability in the world. We've got work groups looking at the home and the whole challenge of the customer premise network, and not only the technical aspects of that, but also the areas such as how that's changing the business models for many operators worldwide in terms of guaranteeing the quality of experience of broadband. And then we've got advocacy work groups. We've got a particular work group called our Broadband Advocacy Work Group that is really looking at investment in broadband right across the world. That group has moved from developing a global view of what excellent looks like in terms of broadband investment across the world, to looking at more regional focus. So it has developed a specific piece of work looking at broadband investment in the US and the whole BEAD and BABA program. And it's now looking at developing broadband investment in Africa and how to underpin all of that. And all of our collaboration work groups are all producing constant output, some of which you'll hear about today, and some of which, all of which you can download from our website. We also have focused on measuring the industry and developing indices for the global industry. And today we're going to be launching two of these important indices, one called the Broadband and Cloud Development Index that looks at how countries around the world rank in terms of the excellence of both broadband and cloud within their country. And then we'll also be launching the Fiber Development Index that specifically looks at the sophistication of fiber rollout within about 85 or 90 countries across the world. I think one of the other key elements that the WBBA has focused on over the last few years has been working with other industry bodies. As anybody in the industry knows, there are a lot of industry organizations. And whilst everybody within the industry is clear on how they're focusing on different parts of that tapestry of industry bodies, it's very important for the industry bodies to talk to one another to make sure that we're not reinventing the wheel, we're not duplicating work that's been done by other people. And so the WBBA has spent a lot of effort in putting in place industry liaisons with the most important industry organizations across the world. Today we're going to hear from two of those. We'll be signing an MOU with IPv6 Forum, and we'll also be in discussion with the World Economic Forum. But we're also going to hear from, in other parts of conversations about how we've worked with the Metaverse Standards Forum, as well as other organizations that we are only beginning to talk with, people like the OECD, who will be giving us a view on how the industry is developing across the world and how that's underpinned by broadband. AI is the topic that we're going to discuss today in the bulk of the presentations. And AI is a many-headed beast. And we're addressing it within the WBBA, within our own work groups. But we're very conscious of the fact that AI stretches into the network, it stretches into the management of the network, it stretches into the consumer experience, how you manage the consumer experience, it stretches into new monetization strategies for our industry. And then layered on top of that, there's whole challenges about the dangers of AI and the ethics surrounding AI. So today's set of presentations is going to look at that challenge from a multifaceted point of view. I'll end with this. The WBBA has moved very quickly over the last number of years. There's a hunger in the industry for an industry organization that really addresses the needs of the fixed broadband industry. The first 2 decades of this century were really all about how we grow mobility, how we grow connectivity. I believe the next decade or 2 is going to be how we grow excellence in broadband for everyone everywhere. And the WBBA is really focused on that topic so that when we reach 2035, 2040, the challenge of excellent broadband is in every part of the world and being enjoyed by every community in the world. Thank you very much, and I hope that for those of you who are not yet members of the WBBA, that you will join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. I was struck by one particular phrase there when you were describing the purpose of the WBBA. It's to find collective approaches to solving commonly held problems and addressing common opportunities. And that's certainly what we intend to do through the course of today's event as we look at how AI will influence future network development. With that in mind, I'd like to introduce our next speaker onto stage, Head of Connectivity Services in the Infrastructures Unit at the OECD, Alexia González Fanfalone.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a distinguished pleasure and honor to be here and represent the OECD at such a conference with a key theme that we consider is of utmost importance: how technological trends, such as AI, are shaping broadband networks of the future. So let me start by underscoring that today's and tomorrow's interconnected world relies on high-quality broadband connectivity. Our vision at the OECD is where everyone and everything can be connected well in terms of availability, affordability, and quality of these networks. We have been making progress around the world towards this goal of connecting people to the latest generation of broadband networks. Worldwide, broadband connections nearly quadrupled during the last decade. They reached 8.5 billion subscriptions, if we consider both fixed and mobile, at the end of 2023, up from 2.6 billion in 2013. And across the OECD, the latest release of broadband statistics reveals, of July 2024, that fiber accounted for 42% of all fixed broadband subscriptions, up from 28% of just 4 years earlier in December 2019, and we remember very well that was right before the COVID pandemic. Moreover, 5G is available in 37 out of 38 OECD countries, comprising already 1/3 of mobile broadband subscriptions. Now, let me pause here and say there is no 5G without fiber, without fixed networks. There's a complementarity in both. With network densification, it becomes even more important. With digital transformation increasingly dependent in high-speed, low-latency connectivity, fostering future-proof networks for all is key. Transitioning to that requires also the shutdown of legacy copper networks such as DSL. Across the OECD, the share of copper DSL subscriptions has been decreasing significantly, comprising only 20% of overall fixed broadband subscriptions at the end of 23. OECD member countries in Latin America, for example, notably Chile, Colombia, Costa Rica, and Mexico, have accelerated their transition to future-proof networks in the past 4 years, and these countries experienced a 258% increase in fiber connections. However, while progress has been made, it has been unequal. Persistent gaps between and within countries remain. Looking at the gaps between countries, for example, OECD's countries had on average 36 fixed broadband subscriptions per 100 inhabitants, so fixed broadband penetration, while this represented 2.4 times the rate of the world without OECD countries. Within countries, according to data provided with one of our data partners, UCLA, people living in cities in OECD countries experienced on average fixed broadband download speeds 50% higher than those in rural and remote areas. So our task at hand is clear. We need to close this connectivity divides while at the same time make our networks more future-proof, sustainable, and resilient. And this is all in a context of a rapidly changing technological environment. To future-proof networks, at the OECD, we have identified 5 key technological trends that will affect the future of both fixed and mobile networks. 1, the move towards virtualization. 2, the integration of cloud services into networks that was already mentioned. 3, the increased use of AI systems and networks, which is the key running theme of this conference. And 4, the move towards openness of the networks. 5, is the integration of terrestrial and non-terrestrial networks. To provide proper evidence-based policy recommendations, identifying these trends is important as they reshape the connectivity ecosystem and the competitive dynamics of the OECD. What we do at the OECD is provide a fora for discussion on these topics so that we have interoperable policies. Not standards, not technical standards, policies. But this is very important in a world where technology is agnostic to borders. Given the global climate crisis, networks must also become more environmentally sustainable. Mitigating communication networks' environmental footprint is a key concern for governments and industry alike. According to different estimates, ICTs account for 1.5% to 4% of the overall greenhouse gas emissions. And these are expected to rise as the demand for connectivity increases. By implementing energy-efficient measures, for example, AI-based solutions to improve energy management and networks, but also AI solutions to broader networks, for example, the energy grid, with digital twins and other types of solutions, we can significantly reduce the footprint of the ICT sector and contribute to other sectors and their efforts to reach environmental goals. This underscores the importance of integrating environmental sustainability considerations into communication policy, but importantly also in the key performance indicators of the standards that are shaping the technologies today. All of this will help promote a greener and more sustainable future for all. Finally, communications infrastructures need to become more resilient. Whether confronted by natural disasters, cyber threats, or other types of disruptions, the ability of communication networks to withstand and recover from disruptions is pivotal in ensuring the continuity of societal and economic activity. Policymakers are taking a proactive role in strengthening the resilience of communication networks to make sure our societies are better prepared for ongoing and future crises. The OECD is currently working on this to provide the tools in identifying the good practices and shape policies in this area. Achieving the objectives of making networks future-proof, sustainable, and resilient, while at the same time closing connectivity gaps requires long-term and continued investments to upgrade and expand networks, which is a topic that is high in the policy agenda. The first step towards ensuring this is to map what's the current state of play in the underlying financial performance of all the actors in the communication value chain. Our recent report, published in June 2024, on financing broadband networks of the future, provides evidence and analysis on this critical topic. It assesses investment activities on a broad range of actors along the communication value chain, including network operators, big tech companies, financial asset managers that are more and more investing in wholesale access type of networks, such as fiber co's, tower companies, and of course, the public sector. The second step consists in identifying the set of policies needed to foster investment in broadband networks. We know that a strong institutional framework that promotes competition creates investment incentives. The 2021 OECD recommendation on broadband connectivity provides a roadmap for policies that foster competition, innovation, and investment while promoting the deployment of networks, particularly in unserved and underserved areas. This recommendation supports countries in this journey, in the OECD, but beyond, as we have shown in a regional study that we conducted at the end and published at the end of 2023 on extending broadband connectivity in Southeast Asia. This was the first study to tailor the Council recommendation into a specific region. Moreover, at present, we're working on a report on the status of connectivity divides using harmonized spatial definition that covers OECD countries and beyond, a total of 60 jurisdictions, which contains not only what's the status, but what are the policy recommendations to bridge these divides. Ladies and gentlemen, let me suggest that we use this event to continue the work towards our shared ambition of supporting the drive towards the provision of the next evolution of broadband networks for all. By working together, we can harness connectivity to build a more prosperous, inclusive, and sustainable future. We look forward to contributing our evidence and analysis on this important conversation with the forthcoming Digital Economy Outlook that will be launched in Estonia at the end of November. And we are proud to continue working to advance an inclusive digital transformation. Welcome all, and please enjoy the Broadband Development Congress 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexia, and thank you for that call to action at the end for all the different industry actors to work together in that common good. I think it was a fascinating insight into the OECD policy agenda, and certainly when we think about increasing resilience, future-proofing networks, increasing sustainability, addressing inequality of access and quality of connectivity, these are very much key aims of the WBBA, and we look forward to continuing to work together with you across all of those areas. We're now going to look at the transformative impact of AI on cloud network convergence. So I'm very delighted to welcome onto stage COO of China Telecom, Liang Baojun.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's a great pleasure to meet you in Paris. At the outside, on behalf of China Telecom, I would like to extend a warm welcome and sincere greetings to you all for joining today's event, which offers us an excellent opportunity to discuss a very relevant topic, improving network efficiency and enhancing AI inclusiveness. As one of the incumbent operators in China, China Telecom has a market cap over $1,031.3 billion and a revenue of $72.8 billion. We run the world's largest operator cloud, are the only mobile satellite operator in China, and have the largest cloud broadband network in the world. AI is driving the next round of technology and industry revolution, powering global socio-economic development and advancing the progress in human civilization. It is expected to generate up to $25.6 trillion in value for the global economy. By 2030, the global AI in telecommunications market is projected to exceed $40 billion. AI has indeed become a vital enabler for ICT development. Seizing such an opportunity, China Telecom has implemented its strategy of cloudification and digital transformation with an aim to promote the integration of digital technology with traditional industries at greater depths. The integrated capability from network plus cloud plus AI plus application puts the company in a better position to seek high-quality development and long-term value creation. In our view, AI and the network can reinforce each other. On one hand, AI is reshaping the network architecture and its operational model. On the other hand, the high-performance and highly scalable network infrastructure offers effective support to AI training and inference. China Telecom is the first in the industry to propose the concept of cloud network convergence. Under such concept, network acts as the foundation, while cloud is put at the core. Leveraging cutting-edge technologies and AI, notable achievements have been made in upgrading network connectivity, intelligent computing power, and autonomous cloud network operation. China Telecom is committed to building next-generation intelligent network for greater security, elasticity, and inclusiveness to support more powerful AI. We have already built the world's largest ROADM, or optical switching network, with a total capacity exceeding 1,200 terabits per second. It supports flexible bandwidth, time division slicing, and unique quantum encrypted private lines. In our pilot trial of real-time transmission in the hollow core fiber, we managed to reduce the link delay by 30%. We are also the first to transmit 1.6 terabytes of data across 2,000 kilometers within 40 minutes. Moreover, we have deployed the largest IPv6 plus end-to-end network and have built the new IPv6 plus metro area network in 70 cities across 22 provinces. In serving cloud, China Telecom's branded service is the largest telco cloud in the world and the largest hybrid cloud in China. With 21 EFLOPS capability for intelligent computing, supported by fully liquid-cooled 10K GPUs pool in China, and the inference pools deployed across 31 provinces. Xira, our integrated intelligent computing platform, features cluster management and the scheduling of over 10,000 GPUs, which enables integrated computing network scheduling, training, and inference, as well as resource management. The Xira platform is already connected with 39 partner companies and has completed field verification of lossless intelligent computing interconnection over a distance of 100 kilometers. Our IT systems and 5G network have been fully migrated to the cloud, and our capacities are made available via open APIs to support rapid service deployment and AI adoption across different verticals. China Telecom is building comprehensive AI system. We remain focused on developing cloud network scheduling systems and improving the capabilities of large speech, language, visual, and multimodal models. 10 large models have been adopted internally for such application as customer service and network operation. 32 industry-specific large models have been launched for customers, targeting sectors like education, industry, and emergency response. Next, I'd like to share some details about our large model. The Zhishan large model for networks has delivered notable progress in quality improvement, cost reduction, and efficiency enhancement. The efficiency in handling network failure has increased by 30% through targeted energy-saving measures for base stations, data centers, and facility rooms. China Telecom managed to save 500 million kilowatt-hours of electricity in the first half of 2024. In addition, the success rate of automatic provisioning of OTN and cloud-based private networks has also been improved to 95%. The Xingchen large model empowers AI application across different sectors. In the industrial sector, our large model for quality inspection now supports match inspection for nearly 1,000 types of templates, with accuracy rate well above 99%. As AI is profoundly transforming the telecom industry and impacting the development of next-generation broadband network, I'd like to share 3 proposals with WBBA and its members. The first is to leverage WBBA's industry leadership. We should facilitate best practice sharing among industries in different countries so as to motivate the integration of AI when designing industry development strategies, thus accelerating the digital and intelligent transformation of global economy. The second is to leverage WBBA's technology leadership. We should pool the strengths of all stakeholders to explore approaches to the evolution of cloud network convergence, advance innovation in integrating cloud computing, networks, and AI, and accelerating the development of global digital infrastructure in a more intelligent, sustainable, and secure manner. The third is to leverage WBBA's ecosystem leadership. We should deepen cooperation with organizations including ITU, OECD, and GSMA to demonstrate the role of WBBA as an important international bridge and link, contributing to foster a more open, collaborative, and inclusive ecosystem. Let's join our hands to create a brighter digital and intelligent future. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Liang, Baojun. One of the things that is very important to the WBBA is to bring in perspectives and insights from across the entire spectrum of the ecosystem. Very much to that end, I'd like to welcome on stage our next speaker, R&D development producer from the BBC, Dr. Emma Young.
Is there no screen? No? It's okay. Hello. Well, it's a real honor to be here because really, I mean, I do a lot of events, and I was at IBC a couple of weeks ago speaking about the project I'm working on, but not usually do we have this amount of, people with your particular interests in a room together, so that really excites me. So yes, I'm Dr. Emma Young. I work for BBC Research and Development. So we are innovating for the future for BBC audiences, and we're a public service broadcaster, so really it's in our remit to really innovate and bring great new experiences to our customers who are the audience. So I'm going to talk to you about AI for Me. So this is a UKRI prosperity partnership between the University of Surrey, the University of Lancaster, and the BBC through BBC R&D. So this brings together industry and some of the brightest and best minds in academia to solve challenging problems. So our goal is we really want to change the broadcasting landscape by achieving personalization at scale. And this goes beyond simple personalization. We're not talking about recommendations here. We're talking about hyper-personalized content that can adapt to each individual users, depending on their preferences, their needs, any accessibility needs they might have, and delivering individualized content to everyone at scale. So creating these user-centered experiences which dynamically adapt to the individual. And we're able to do this because of AI, because of the advancements in AI. At the BBC, we've been talking about flexible media for a long, long time. Unfortunately, it takes well, before the advancements in AI, it would take a real step change in how content is captured, edited, and produced. And, the industry just wasn't ready for that. But with AI, we can take away some of that complex problems, and we can automatically create these experiences for audiences. So we need to exploit the transformation to IP streaming technology, and that's why it's highly relevant that I'm able to talk to you about this project today, because we really want to disrupt the media landscape. That's the team, so researchers, some of the brightest minds from Lancaster University, from the University of Surrey, and of course, colleagues from BBC R&D. We're supported by an array of different partners. Now, these organizations, they supported the funding bid originally, and they're very, very keen to keep informed of our outputs. We've published many papers. I think we're now on 35 papers published. We've developed 21 new technologies, and all these partners attend our events because they're highly interested in the outcome of this project. So now I'm going to show a video, because I can talk about hyper-personalized media till I'm blue in the face, but I think this video will really, really show you exactly what we mean.
When it comes to our constantly shifting universe of digital media, everything has changed. Our hyper-connected generation is constantly on the move, consuming content through any number of devices across a seemingly infinite number of environments, each with their own specific needs. So can we do better? Wiping the slate clean to make content smarter. Why are we always pausing, rewinding, and going back to content? Molding ourselves and our lives around our favorite film, radio program, or that TV show? Why can't content be flexible, to be as unique as you are? If no single viewing experience is ever the same, why should our content be? Can I take the big game with me? Can I only get the information that I need? Can I change the appearance of what I'm seeing altogether? Ou talvez apenas troque as próprias palavras. What if our content could redesign itself in real time to make it more accessible for those who are visually impaired or have hearing problems, or are neurodivergent, or a combination of these, providing bespoke, one-of-a-kind solutions just for you and for millions of others, instantly? How do we provide this flexibility whilst respecting and preserving the story? Should there be limits? What are those limits? And who decides them? Complex problems demand innovative solutions, and we call these solutions personalized media. Using the next generation of artificial intelligence, we can give you control, so you can decide what you see, how it sounds, and where it's presented. Is the crowd too loud? No problem. Just turn it down and leave the rest the same. Did you get lost within your TV drama? Well, here's an AI-generated bespoke catch-up just for you. Or do you have an accessibility need? We have that covered too. No more relying on the same accessibility solutions and expecting them to serve everybody in the same way. Instead, personalized media works for you, creating tailored media adapted to your preferences and needs seamlessly. We are at the beginning of a saga of invention, innovation, and revolution, with many volumes, but always with the audience at its heart. What this story looks like, we don't know. But what we do know is that we want to share and shape it with you. A new world of personalized media. AI for society. AI for everyone. AI for me.
So, BBC aren't the only broadcaster or public service organization that's thinking about personalized media. So Channel 4 have recently secured funding to work with Charisma AI and Falmouth Uni. And they're going to be looking exactly the same thing, basically. They're just starting out. We're a few years in. We started this in 2021. The project's funded until 2026. Also, Google DeepMind, they call this liquid content. We call it flexible media, and the AI for Me project is looking at exactly that. So the current situation in broadcasting, there's this one-size-fits-all streaming media. So every viewer receives the same content. Audio and video is shot. Some graphics and text are added in the production stage. And that results in a fixed program IB stream, where everyone receives exactly the same thing. In AI for Me, our aim is to enable real-time transformation of audiovisual capture of general scenes. So this is using lots of AI tools that we've developed to automatically turn those scenes into an object-based representation. So that's discrete elements where everything remains separate and is, has a semantic metadata attached to it as it moves through the production chain and is distributed. So this is how we see the future. Fully personalized media experiences where your audio and video is captured. We use AI to transform that scene, and which results in objects and scene metadata. We then add graphics and text and whatever else we want to do, spatial audio elements perhaps, and we do that in the object-based production stage. And then those objects and the metadata need to go through some network compute. So that's why it's great to talk about this here with you today. That results in personalized media for all, where the content adapts to the individual, the device they're viewing on, the bandwidth they have, the available bandwidth. Are they traveling through a patchy area, for example? Are they watching on a small screen? Or are they watching on a living room environment with fiber broadband? What we want to ensure is that we only send the relevant objects to each audience member so that they each get a really high quality of experience. So with personalization, there's a lot of creative industry added value. We can engage different audiences. We can also do targeted content and advertising. Using AI, we can do some really intelligent product placement. So that's just what we're starting to think about now in terms of monetizing this sort of stuff. As I say, it goes beyond recommendation as a personalized service. But we'll also think about repurposing content to different platforms and devices, as well as providing local content in different languages for audiences around the world. And think of all the countries that we broadcast in and capture footage in BBC World Service, for example. Using AI, we can really make the most of those assets. So here's a quote for you here. Personalization is a primary driver for growth in the $2.3 trillion global industry. This doesn't come without business challenges. So capturing object-based representations to enable dynamic adaptation for personalization at the point of rendering, that's one thing. So as I was talking about, we're using AI to do automatic transformation of the 2D video and the audio, and turning that into discrete media objects. And that removes the manual bottleneck of getting the industry and our producers and our streamers, anyone who's making content and delivering it, it's removing that bottleneck and the cost of object-based media production. We're offloading that to some really intelligent AI tools. But the biggest challenge of all is delivering this at scale. With intelligent utilization of the available network, using edge and device resources for mass audiences. We need to realize cost and energy-efficient delivery. It's at scale for mass audiences based on their user requirements, their devices, and connectivity. And why is that a massive challenge? Well, for context, in 2019, BBC's total distribution costs were 194 million. We calculated that 1 hour per day of content delivered to 20 million people using cloud rendering services would cost around 16 billion per year. So that's over 80 times the current distribution cost, which is actually, when you think about it, 4 times the BBC's current total expenditure. We're a public service broadcaster. that's just not viable. So here are some of the delivery challenges when we're thinking about distribution. Reversioning content. So thinking about hyper-personalized media, it really results in a combinatorial explosion of potential versions. It makes it absolutely impractical, and basically the cost would just be too much to bear to pre-render and store all those permutations. So on-demand reversioning can be performed in a distributed way, and we're looking at intelligent compute resources, especially where hardware limitations forbid these processes to run on user devices. So we've shown in our work that various fragments of a personalized media application can be offloaded to the cloud and edge without any perceptible degradation in quality. Because as I was saying before, quality of experience is very, very important to us. So we've demonstrated permutations such as split rendering and pixel streaming, and would be really excited to hear about any ideas you might have to address the challenges that we've been facing. So due to user needs, evolving user needs, future delivery structures need to be compute aware. This adds additional complexity, of course, such as compute provisioning, compute placement, network performance awareness, and steering service requests in an optimal way. Cache and compute placement are important challenges to address for us. We need to think about placement decisions, and we have to reevaluate those regularly. So we've been investigating solutions for decision-making over placement positions that learn from previous decisions. And of course, exploiting the temporal and spatial proximity of generated media to improve cache performance. Our approach, we're taking a standards-based approach. And we've been actively working with industry partners to help develop the technology, because the standards, although useful in some areas, are still quite deficient in others. We need to provide elastic networking, distributed compute architectures, and scalable CDN components. We have to offload computational tasks and transmit only the necessary media options, making sure that's cost-effective and a high quality of experience with minimizing bandwidth usage. So here are some of the standards we're looking at and that we need to develop further, hopefully with your help. Adaptive media composition, scalable distribution, dynamic offloading for performance, and efficient bandwidth utilization. If you have knowledge in any of these areas and suggestions for how we might optimize the work that we're already doing, I'd love it if you got in touch. And how you can do that, you scan the QR code that will take you to the AI for Me website. Those 3 email addresses there are the people you should contact if you would like some further discussion, or come and see me after this. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. Fascinating to hear and see, in fact, some of those AI-driven innovations in action, but also to hear about the challenges of delivery at scale. And we saw on one of the slides there the importance of the network to that delivery chain. So to help us to explore how AI will revolutionize the network, I'm delighted to invite on stage now CEO of Ookla, an important and founder member of the WBBA, Mr. Stephen Bai.
Thank you. And that's just the button. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here today. Thank you for joining my presentation. It's a short presentation on an extremely complex subject. And I hope to share some suggestions and recommendations on how each of you can use AI and some of the technology and the solutions that are available today and that were even talked about earlier today to unlock the value that you have in your own data, complementing that with other data sources, but really unlocking the intrinsic value that already exists within your business. And so to me, the technology is evolving I think it's been talked about for many, many years, and I'm going to touch on that. But there's certain trends and capabilities that have allowed us to now realize the value of what's in the networks today and the data that we're gathering, but also dealing with the explosion of data that continues to grow as we harvest more and more data out of the network as well as devices in the business. I give you these recommendations and suggestions as someone at Ookla who, where we have looked at how we use these tools with our own data, but I also am a former CTO, having built, managed, and operated networks in very, very complex environments prior to joining Ookla last year. So with that, I'll get into the presentation. So if you look at what Ookla is today, and many of you know us, mainly for speed test and some of the benchmarking work that we do, but our purpose is really about helping our customers serve their customers. And what we're really about is delivering better connectivity for all. So we share the vision and the purpose of the WBBA and many others in this industry. We're about connecting consumers with the industry, with different service providers in order to improve broadband connectivity. And we really believe it can stimulate and drive economic growth in countries, but also unlock value that consumers can gain from access to more content, richer content, and better services. We achieve this through 4 brands that we have, and many people know us for speed test, first-party application, where we collect a lot of speed data, but we also do a lot of third-party crowdsourced data collection, where we're measuring the quality of experience beyond speed. So it's not just about speed, it's about the quality of the experience that customers get as they connect to the internet, as they use applications, as they're interacting with media, and even gaming and other applications and services. So we measure the performance of the environment across multiple dimensions with speed test. We also have a product within our portfolio around Ekahau. And it's interesting as we talk about broadband networks, because oftentimes, and we hear this from our customers and we hear it from consumers as well, is the perception of a customer's broadband connection is often impacted by the Wi-Fi experience or the local network experience they have within their home. So you may be delivering fiber to the home or fiber to the room or fiber even to the premise, but the customer's perception of that connection is impacted by the quality of that Wi-Fi, whether it's provided by the operator or whether they're deployed themselves. So we have tools and systems where we diagnose what's going on within the Wi-Fi environment, as well as private 5G environment that can help inform what we need to do about those networks. And we do that at an industrial scale with Ekahau. We also have Down Detector, which is really about consumer sentiment. So we monitor thousands of services today, and we look at sort of what's going on and monitor them in real time. And you'll see a number of reports around Down Detector where we detect outages and issues that are maybe peripheral to the actual network, but impact the customer's perception of the network. And so it's a terrific platform and a tool, but it's all based on consumer sentiment data. So oftentimes, and I can say this as a former network operator, you'll have customers who perceive an issue within the network, but it's really related to the service that's on top of the network. And while everything looks green, it's actually, there are issues that customers are having. So it's a terrific tool for that. We also have root metrics. So, the reality is there's just some things you can't measure with cloud source data. So we also have controlled measurements and benchmarking and test solutions that allow us to measure the network and services in a different dimension that complements what we do within the crowd. And as I said, we're a member of WBBA, we're on the board, we're very honored to be part of the WBBA and supporting the initiatives that are underway here. And also proud to provide our data that supports the analysis that's going on, the white papers that are developed, as well as the Broadband and Cloud Index that's being launched here at this event. So at Ookla, it's all about the data for us. And what's really important is the quality of the data. I'm going to touch on that as we talk about AI models and the importance of quality data and the training sets. But we're all about collecting better and better data. It's really important that as we collect this data from hundreds of millions of devices in the fixed world as well as in the mobile world, that we are very transparent in how we collect that data, respecting privacy policies, but also the policies that exist within the ecosystem as well. There are a lot of collectors out there that don't necessarily follow those policies, but it's absolutely imperative that we do, because the credibility and the quality of the data is very, very important. As we collect that data, it's all about how you draw insights out of the data. And that's where AI and many, many tools can be used in order to extract those insights. But at the end of the day, it's about delivering a better outcome for our customers. And how do we drive that decision framework in a fast and efficient way so that customers can make very good decisions that lead to better business outcomes for their business. Because at the end of the day, if you don't take care of your customers, you don't have a business, you don't have a business, you don't have revenue, you don't have a return on investment. So that whole ecosystem has to work. So we have a lot of capabilities under each of these stacks. So there are multiple dimensions to each one of these, and I don't propose to go through a product presentation, but we have different collectors in each of these categories, and then we have different ways in which we present the solutions to our customers where they can take actions on those recommendations and the suggestions that we make. And so you see that across on the right in terms of the different platforms we have, and many carrier customers around the world and enterprise customers are using this data. But underneath that, we're looking in, and we are working with AI and ML models to unlock that value that exists within the data sets that we have. So enough about Ookla and what we do in terms of data collection and the quality of the data that we have. And let's talk about how this is all relevant to the topic of AI. You know, and interestingly enough, AI is sort of the flavor of the day or flavor of the year. You know, in my humble opinion, we've definitely approached the kind of the peak of the hype curve. You know, it'll be interesting to see how long this hype lasts, but like anything, we go through these cycles in the industry. But it's real. The technology is real. We can leverage this technology, and many, many people are looking at how they leverage it, and everybody's coming at it from different dimensions, and we're all collecting a ton of data. And if you're an operator, you're collecting a ton of data within your own network. Where we help the operators is the complementary data set that gives them visibility into the competitive environment that they don't necessarily have within their own data collection. And the quality of an AI system and the solutions and the recommendations you get out of it is really a product and a direct function of the quality of the data that goes in there. You know, it's kind of garbage in, garbage out. You put garbage in, you'll get garbage out. But getting the quality of the data right, filtering that data, making sure it's diverse, it's complex, it's sufficiently large, and its complementary training sets will allow you to develop a solution that gives you very, very good recommendations and outcomes. And what's also important in the data is it's not just about feeding data into the system. The context that goes with that data is equally important. So building the context for that data and the input in order to drive the output is really, really critical. And so the training sets are absolutely vital. And what's interesting today is if you look at a lot of the systems that are being deployed, there's actually a lack of data. So when you start looking at the training sets, the diversity, they're sort of exhausting the available data set. And we see that actually beyond even what we do at Ookla. Ookla is a part of Ziff Davis, and we're an internet media company, and we see that in terms of the amount of crawls that are going on and the amount of data that's feeding into a lot of these LLMs. They're just running out of data. And so it's interesting that you've got to have that really quality data in order to get a quality output in the system. So what does it mean for service providers? You know, a lot of people focus on sort of what I consider the traditionally mundane tasks. So there's a lot of tasks as an operator that are very mundane, and you can remove the need for, you know, other systems and use AI for that. But it can also help to resolve very complex networking and service management tasks. There are a lot of tools in this space, and everybody's going to propose tools. Everybody's got a platform. Everybody's got a solution. But AI and LLMs can take it to a different level, which I think is really exciting about where the platforms are today. And I'm going to show my age here, but I remember the days when we deployed single frequency networks with single radio technology solutions with the 2 or 3 handsets available. I mean, I remember those days when we had, frankly, amps. We went to GSM, then we did TDMA and CDMA, all the acronyms. But today's networks are very, very complex, and they're getting more and more complex. And when I think about the past, I think of those networks as almost 3-dimensional. You could actually visualize a lot of what was going on within those networks, and you could understand kind of how to analyze that, and you had very simple tools to do that. Today, those networks are n-dimension in each dimension of time, space, and frequency. So when you think about the complexity of the solution space and the number of different sub-optimums and optimums, it's really important to have tools that allow you to define and solve for that objective function that you have. So these networks are very, very complicated. The systems are very complicated behind that, but our customer experiences also, expectations are much, much higher. And I think Emma was talking about sort of the personalization. When you combine that with the complexity of the network, the standard tools are not good enough. And this is where AI, I think, can really unlock some of the value and help to solve kind of whatever your objective function may be, which is what makes this technology so exciting. But what's also important is the OODA loop. So how you orientate, how do you observe, orientate, make decisions and act is really, really critical. And so the speed of that loop and how you use that information is really, really important, and that's what AI can help you do as a business. And whoever can accelerate that OODA loop faster than their competitors will have a competitive advantage. So, it's really about driving better outcomes for the business, but also observing what's going on, looking at the data, analyzing it faster than your competitors, and then coming out with another action which you go through in that process. So that's how service providers, I think, can unlock some of this value. And what's good about the OODA loop is speed can overcome power. So you can spend money, you can spend resources, but if you move faster within the OODA loop, you can really separate yourself from others. And the objective is, at least the way we look at it is, how do you deliver the best return on investment? And that's about delivering a better customer experience, which really is about retention of customers and driving down churn and managing churn. So we spend a lot of money acquiring customers, and service providers invest a ton of money in acquiring customers. In many cases, they're spending more money acquiring customers than they are in building a network. And so what's really important is, how do you preserve that relationship? How do you continue to deliver a unique customer experience that those customers will stay with you? And those that do it better than their competitors will draw their customers away. So that's a really important part of where I think AI can really help service providers. And I just put out some data points because I always find this a fascinating reflection on history. This is not a new problem, and it's certainly not a new concept. People have been working on this for decades. And even if you go back into the 1990s, people were talking about using neural networks to solve these kind of problems. And I just cited a couple of papers here, and people talk about recurrent neural networks today, but the concept has been around since the 90s. I still remember the day when we talked about expert systems and machine learnings, and it was interesting. Artificial neural networks went through a really big hype phase in the 90s, and then there was a period about a decade nobody really talked about them, and now they're all coming back. But what's different today? And I think that's what's more interesting, is when you look at the history, the concepts have been there, but what's changed things, and these are three laws that people talk about, but they're really predictions. They're not actually laws. But whether it's Moore's law or Kreider's law or Nielsen's law, that relate to both, compute, or not both, but in compute, storage, as well as in terms of performance and connectivity, these predictions are unlocking the promise of AI. So it's taking the theory and the concepts that was developed, or that were developed decades ago, and unlocking that and bringing it to life. And I think that's what's exciting about what we're seeing today. So when you look at this, we have this exponential increase in data, but we also have the necessary compute, storage, and connectivity to take advantage of that. And I think Emma talked about this as well. We have to bound that by cost. So while the technology may exist, it's got to be cost effective. We've got to deliver a return on investment. It's not good enough just to have the technology. You've got to have the cost structure in order to be able to achieve this outcome. And what's interesting is, AI today isn't about just solving the problem, it's doing it with speed. And pattern recognition and the concept of pattern recognition has been around for a long time again, and the signal is there, and we're always looking for the signal in the noise. The noise floor is rising, but the speed at which you can identify the signal and the speed at which you can get to the need is really, really important, and that's what I think is exciting about this technology and where it's going. But the volumes are growing unabated. The data is continuing to grow, and we just need to be able to process that, filter out the irrelevant, and looking for that signal in the noise. And it comes back to, it's about accelerating the OODA loop. If you can separate out the noise, identify the indicator, observe that, orientate yourself, make a decision and act, and the faster you do that on this, the better the experience you will deliver for your business as well as for your customers. So as I mentioned, everybody's talking about AI, machine learning, Gen AI, LLMs, and many, many other acronyms. I like to think about it as almost like the California gold rush from 1849. So when you think about sort of what's going on right now in the industry, but it is real. What's happening is this technology is getting deployed. And I just use one use case for us. Down Detector, as I mentioned, is a consumer sentiment platform where we track services across the internet, thousands of services. And we look for anomalies and anomaly detection in real time. And we're actually using the technology and built inside the Down Detector platform in order to generate even just simple summary reports about what's going on. When you're starting to process this data, you're really looking for, okay, what do I do with this? What is important about this data set that I need to act on? And so we use Gen AI just in our own platform to extract some of these insights and provide those for our customers. And it's taking us seconds to do that, where it would have otherwise taken hours of processing and analysis to get to the same outcome. So it's just an example of how AI can be used as a tool, but it's a tool in a toolkit. And a tool needs to be fit for purpose, and the importance is that we all have access to those tools today. So what does this mean for service providers? I've touched on this, but at the end of the day, what it comes down to is when I think about monetization of the network and how you use AI to monetize what you have, it's about, in fact, what the earlier gentleman talked about in China Telecom. It's about extracting operational efficiency out of the business. It's about taking a better look at the data you have to better operate the network, to deliver a better experience, but to reduce the MTTR, to achieve a much higher performance at a much, much lower cost. So I think that's where the real value is. And the good thing is it's intrinsic within the service provider business. It's about harvesting that value and using this technology to do so. And we at Ookla are certainly happy to help you with the data we have, to combine it with the data that you have within your own business as well. And we feel that our data can complement yours. And so with that, I know I'm up on time, but I did just want to leave you with one quote. From 1965, I had to look to find this. But once you build the first ultra-intelligent machine, it'll be the last invention that man need ever make. So just something to ponder as we look at where we're going with the intelligence of these platforms. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you. Very good. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for that closing remark, and thank you for those very strident recommendations for service providers. I saw lots of cameras going off when that slide was up on the screen. After our next keynotes, we'll be going into a series of panel discussions and Q&A sessions. So we look forward for you joining us for those. But next, a very important look at how and why we should accelerate 10 Giga commercialization. I'm delighted to welcome on stage President of Optical Access Networks at Huawei, Feng Zhishan.
So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great honor to have a speech here. So first, please allow me to introduce myself. I'm Feng Zhishan from Huawei Optical Access Network product line. So today, I would like to share the Huawei understanding regarding fiber broadband. So the title of my presentation is Accelerating 10 Giga Commercialization to Win in Intelligent Era. So, fiber broadband grows faster than expectation in the past 20 years. And actually, there are two main driving forces to develop fiber broadband. The first is the subscribers' requirements. The second is technologies. So we have summarized the latest new service which will support the fiber broadband development. The first is about the cloud interaction. So the interactive games with local experience, which need at least 300 megabits per channel, and the latency should be less than 10 milliseconds to achieve the better appearance. The second is the AI plus healthcare, and smart healthcare and 24 hours, 7 days management need at least 300 megabits per channel, and the latency is less than 20 milliseconds. The last one is AI for manufacture. In order to achieve more than 95 accuracy, which will make the cost down to 60%, and need at least 7G per HD industry camera. For those kind of service, we will support the broadband development. And because of the service evolution drives 3 fiber broadband, unlocking the 10G BPS broadband. We have summarized the evolution from the 100 megabits to the 10G. In the past, the video is the main content which will support the FTTH by using Giga technology. And it's 100 megabits era, and it's content driven. And now we have go to the Giga era, and the operators deploy like FTTR and 10G-PON to provide like a 10G commercial package to the subscribers. And this is experience driven. And the third one is in the future, 10G commercial package bandwidth. As I know, so some operators already launched the 10G commercial package for the subscribers, and is cloud, like interactive, and AI healthcare, and what I just introduced, like AOI requirements, which driving the network to evolve from the Giga to the 10G. And the operators deploy like FTTR in combination with like 50G-PON to provide a 10G commercial package to the subscribers, and we call it intelligent gems. And from the transmission point of view, it's more AI-centric. And we have summarized the 3 steps. The first step is long-haul interaction. It's switching-centric. The product solution is by like 100 or even 200, and ROADM is capacity driven. And the second step is DC-centric. And now some operators are deploying like a 400G and OXC to provide line-blocking DC traffic, and it's architecture-driven. And the third one is the latest and progress is AI-centric, like the access to the cloud and power in like a millisecond. For example, like using like 400, even 800G, and even under 2 OXC. So it's application-driven. So this is a summary for the all-optic transmission. And building an AI-oriented all-optic target is Huawei target. And we have summarized the current network architecture. Actually, it includes 3 parts. The first part is in the left, is 10G intelligent access network, which can provide 10G BPS to everywhere. The second part is one-hop metro transmission network, which can achieve less than 1 millisecond latency. The last part is 3D mesh backhaul transmission network, which can support 99.999% availability. So those together focus on like all-oriented all-optic transmission. And the service continue to evolve, and the network continue to evolve. So how to smoothly upgrade in different phases is current like a product solution key features. And we have summarized the different phases and the different requirements. The first is like 100 megabits and switch centric, and using like FTTH, like Wi-Fi 5 or Wi-Fi 6 is economic product solution. And the second is gigabit and DC centric. And some operators deploy like FTTR and using like Wi-Fi 6 to achieve like a Giga commercial package experience. The third one is 10G is an AI-centric, and the operators will deploy like FTTS and plus X and use Wi-Fi 7 technologies. And for the central office, we'll deploy like a 50G-PON to achieve like 10G to everywhere. So actually, this is my last page of my presentation. So our target is to accelerate network and service to meet the operators' needs. The first is from the network deployment point of view, and by deploying like 10G-PON and reconstruction like the fiber-based broadband to achieve like 10G everywhere. The second is the business model. Once the operators deploy the network, which will support them for monetization. The third one is like user development to introduce an ecosystem partner to set like a home accuracy for a lot of opportunity. So, thank you. This is my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Feng Zhishan. We're now going to move to the first interactive format of this afternoon's Broadband Development Congress, where we're going to have a panel looking at operationalizing AI in the cloud and broadband network, and specifically how to maximize the impact of AI. I'd like to welcome onto the stage our two panelists, Head of Technology from Algeria Telecom, Mohamed Amine Benziane, Vice President of Consumer AI at Deutsche Telekom, Rickard Damm, and to chair the conversation, my Omdia colleague and Research Director, Michael Philpott. And I'm delighted to announce Chair of the F5G Council at ETSI, Dr. Olivier Ferveur.
Great, thank you. We went from panel 2 to 3, so I'm pleased about that. So AI technology is already being used in the telco network, but mainly around network optimization. It's still early days, and there's a lot of innovation, I think, to come. So in this panel, our expert panelists will share insights on how their companies have effectively integrated AI into the cloud and how they can maximize that transformation. So I'd first like to start with asking Mohamed and Rickard. First, perhaps we start with Mohamed and then come on to Rickard. And please, Olivier, please, if you want to add anything, please do. So the first question is, how are AI technologies currently being used in your cloud and broadband networks today?
Well, thank you very much. Good evening to all. I think the first thing first to think about AI in my introduction is really to think about as putting in place really a strategy in that sense. So how you are going to use AI, the answer need to be rooted to an existing predefined strategy. So the company need at first really to think about what are the objectives of AI inside the organization or in operator, where the deployment will be, so in customer-facing services and aspect, in network operations, in procurement, in HR, in internal employee satisfaction and in experience. So there are a couple of things in the cloud or in the data center. So there are many use cases really that being considered. But for effective, and this is I'm using this as my baseline comment for all my introduction during this panel, is to really start by strategy and an organization that really is aligned with this strategy, and then we can move forward with the to answer your question, where AI is. And this, of course, the strategy that will be derived, of course, will focus on a certain aspect that the company has an effective need in terms of enhancing its business in operations, in customer. We have a customer-focused approach. So let's, invest in AI in customer-facing applications. So this is the couple of ideas in terms of where we need to put AI. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So. From our perspective, so this is on the Deutsche Telekom side, then we are investing, of course, probably there are 1,000 AI projects. We are so many different organizations, but I can mention a few that are under my perspective of view, at least. So I work for the Chief Product Organization, and we build products for both customer-facing applications, which is what I do, so the consumer-facing side, but then we also do for internal efficiency some things that are really moving the needle. So I can give you an example. So if you look at the AI, has always been really good at summarizing large amounts of data into something condensed and something understandable. But then if you add Gen AI on top of that, this is where it starts getting really interesting, because you add the creativity and the hyper-personalization on top of there as well. So these three sort of things, you bake them all together. And we found that, for instance, helping our customer agents. This is one of the biggest needles to move very immediately, because we have this vast information, or this vast sea of information that the customer agents can help our customers with. So for instance, I saw an example now very, very recently, which we built, is that how long does it take when the customer asks you this? What is the difference between this TV package and the other TV package? And probably we have 200 different combinations or 2 million different combinations for certain products. And it takes, in the old world where you search and you start combining, maybe up to 3-4 minutes for the systems to come together with the human, so to speak. Now we could do it in less than 20 seconds. Get a side-by-side view by Gen AI then generated, side-by-side view. This is package number 2. These are the differences, and this is where you can go ahead. And I think that is really showing the power. So this is where we're investing most immediately, and the customer-facing side somehow directionally the same. The first launched products that we have are on the chatbot side, so the traditional chatbots, AI too, but we're much more decision tree based. Now they are, in the long tail, we're answering questions with an LLM-based bot instead, which is, I can give you a very funny story there. So I was looking into the data there together with the team, and one customer in Austria had figured this out a little bit, or wanted to try maybe, so there's of course a safety layer, but this one slipped through in a very funny way. So he had a question about the problem that he had with this router. Probably the router needed to get exchanged. This was something he came to a conclusion about probably after a thunderstorm or something. But he wanted to have the answer as a narrative of a children's story. This is what he asked the bot. Like, give me the answer as a narrative. And it was hilarious. It was really like a very funny children's story of how you ring this nice man, and then you will get it. Like, it was very fun. So I think we're entering into an era where the creativity starts sort of getting into our customers' hands, and this is where I think it's getting super exciting now.
Yeah, just on those services, is that only through your digital channels that you're using that technology, or is that going into your stores as well to help when customers are actually talking to your staff face-to-face?
Yeah, so the first example I gave there with the comparison, this is not only on the digital channels, this is really for the assisted channels. Stores is one really good one, by the way, because there you can get it, but I think this is also very important for our call centers, where we are investing heavily in Gen AI technologies now for the incoming calls. I mean, getting lots of calls is not the problem, it's when a human has to answer them. That's when we start getting costs. But if we get all the calls and it's answered to a large extent by a Gen AI voice, as you can see, sometimes indistinguishable from a real human, the customer doesn't really care. They're still very happy with the help that they get, and then we can increase our efficiency enormously. If you look at if you start breaking down a call, so a normal customer service call, let's say that it's 270 seconds, something like this on average. 90 seconds out of those are just summarizing of the call. Like, why not do that then by Gen AI, just listening in, summarizing it, and then putting that to rest, so to speak. Then you have saved a significant amount of, first of all, boring work. Work that's going not to the customer, that's just going to our internal systems. And the other part is that you, of course, can increase the volume to the call center.
Okay, great. So Olivier, coming to you, I mean, what's the role of Etsy here? How are you building AI computing into your broadband generation roadmap?
Yes, I think we need to think about long-term perspectives when we speak about normalization. And what it's bring to us, AI, is basically, as I explained, we all as operator also, we have a lot of data, and when AI is coming, we begin to play with that. We begin to create some internally first optimization of network, think of that. And when we begin to do that, we begin to think about, okay, I need to have huge amounts of data, process the data, and it's not free to process data, to be honest. And particularly when we speak about AI, we speak about Gen AI that has milliards and milliards of parameters that you need to create that. And at some point in normalization, we think, okay, AI is good for a specific user, big company like us, but we want to bring that everywhere. And when we bring everywhere the AI, we have a competition between the computation that we need to perform with AI and the energy that it costs. So it is very good at this moment we will play with very small things that it's only for us, I will say. But for the end user, for a subscriber, it's not possible. He have his own Gen AI models for manage the kitchen or other things. And if you want to bring some specific thing to them, we need to think about how we can give new things, and the network needs to bring new things, not only bandwidth between users, that was the first goal of the network. Second goal will be to bring bandwidth to the data center for have some information coming from more centralistic things. Now we need to bring computation to the end user for create AI, for use AI also. And that's the big change in normalization. Now when we speak about network, we don't speak anymore about bandwidth only, but also about computation. That's really the new paradigm, the new need for the network. And that's really a change for us. AI definitely will change the normalization in long-term perspective because we need to bring this new feature to the network.
Yes, it's about getting that network so it becomes almost invisible for that, as if yes, the compute power is actually in the device itself.
Because the computation will never be a local computation like you have as GPU, for example, for graphical. It's working at small level, but when we speak about AI, it's too much, and it requires too many energy, and it could be only done in specific area where you will have heat dissipation and optimization that we definitely need for being sustainable at some point.
Okay, great. Okay, coming on to yourself, Mohamed. Could you speak about any kind of real benefits, or what are the key benefits that you would say have been achieved so far in your deployment of AI technology?
Well, the benefit, as I mentioned earlier, there are many benefits that can be derived from AI. As I said, network operations, and so this is the one of the most important things for any telco. How you can automate your network, orchestrate, automate. You run your network as much as possible as autonomous, in order to for provisioning, for detecting faults and so on and so forth. So this is the most important thing, and this will be translated, of course, to the for customer experience and for manageability of the network. The other thing is as mentioned earlier, is the customer-facing aspect, and here we have very broad set of applications, as have been echoed earlier. So chatbots, Gen AI is leading in that segment, but also on predictive maintenance, for example, back to the network operations, predictive maintenance is important. Predicting network provisioning, planning, re-engineering, some things in that direction. And again, as I mentioned, there might be use cases for internal use, for employee satisfaction, how can we increase productivity internally? So, and also in the data center, where we can also leverage capabilities of AI. But I think I want to say to follow up on my initial very important point on strategy is, I think ISO has developed recently a standard when it comes to AI management system. And this demonstrates the importance in having clear policy, clear strategy inside the organizations. This is the foundation. Now, when we talk about, and then you can put use cases on top of the strategy and the policy, because we need budget, we need, vision, where we want it to go with AI, where AI is needed in a certain point. The other important bullet point after strategy, I think it is the data aspect, right? So inside the telco, data is spread across silos, right? We have many domains in the network. We have access, transport, metro, data center. We have IT, and so on. So the data is really spread in silos, and the challenge is how can we think about holistic data strategy inside the operator, right? So you know, how can we bring all the data into a single repository for ease of access? Because it turns out that this is one of the, let's say, prerequisite of AI. So you need to have robust data architecture, unified data models, unified structure. You have your data fabric, which is already being put in place, or data lakes. There are so many references into this. So in a nutshell, once you have clear vision, you have to jump to the data, putting in place the data architecture needed. And of course, when we say this, of course, there is a need for having the relevant skills, you know, for, you know, managing all these data, the chief data architect, chief data officer, and chief data transformation officer, and etc. So this is linked to my initial comment in having robust structural organization in terms of looking to this aspect in a holistic perspective. Yeah. So these are just enablers of good AI introduction into the telco space.
Interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Thank you. Mohamed raised a few challenges there in terms of spreading the data. Rickard, from your perspective, have you kind of experienced any big challenges or perhaps surprises that you didn't expect in this roadmap?
Yeah, I think all of us would be concerned. I think the hallucination aspect of Gen AI is probably one of the biggest problems in an industry where we are striving for excellence and accuracy in general. And I think that has come as, you could think of, jokingly, you could think of Gen AI systems a little bit like what a border collie is to dogs. It's like it just wants to work. It wants to do something, it wants to answer, and it always will come to an answer. It doesn't say, I don't know. And that's a bit of the problem here, right? So we have to put all of these guardrails in place and all of these control systems and mechanisms in place. So I think a failure could be is that we create, and we've already seen that a little bit, is that we limit the power of these systems, so to speak. Like, if you look at this, there are some good examples, I think. Many of us have seen when Google's Gemini was launched and all these pictures that were misrepresenting historic events. Like, that's obviously wrong. Like, that's a failure in that sense. You lose the trust of people and you lose trust of everybody. Like, the same would happen if we start using the wrong data, the customer's data, and in the wrong way, so that we get it, like it ends up in the wrong hands, etc. It's so easy to do that, and I would guess that is sort of one of the things. The other challenge, I think, and this is a bit of an optimistic, challenge, a fake challenge, if you wish, for the industry, because we'll solve it, we always have, is that we talk about, we just heard a presentation about 10 gig networks and deploying that, and then we would sit here, afterwards we'll have a coffee and said, like, what are we going to use this for? That's what we said. I was at Ericsson 20 years ago now, I went through the 3G, the 4G, and now the 5G era on the mobile side, and every time we said exactly the same thing, and something new has come. And this time, for sure, it's about streaming AI, which is bidirectional, by the way. So it will stream from the device up to the network or the cloud, and vice versa. Always on AI systems. This will be the same thing that we saw with YouTube and the explosion of streaming data on the downlink when it came to 4G and 5G networks. I think this is something, like, if we look at failure modes, it would be the networks that are not capable of serving that. It's a little bit around the corner still, but if you look at the use cases of streaming AI, this is going to be huge. Like, just imagine millions of phones with cameras. Everything, I think, that benefit from a camera will have one, and it will be sort of looking around all the time, like just catering for that in the network will be a 10 gig problem for sure.
Yeah. Olivier, obviously Algeria Telecom and Deutsche Telekom have a lot of resources, a lot of experts at the fingerprint, but not all telcos have that kind of resource and that kind of capability. I'm just wondering, is there a role, or what's the role for standards to kind of help smaller operators take advantage of this type of technology?
Yes, if you're looking carefully, I think the good thing is if you're looking at the European market regarding telco, for example, we have 145 operators in Europe. where there is 3 operators in America and 3 in China. And if you're looking at the quality of the network that we have in Europe, it's comparable to what we have in the other 2 continents. And why? It's because we follow standard, basically. Mm-hmm. At some point, that's what is very interesting as the European market is despite that we are small operator, we are dedicated to a specific area, we have specific history and specific issue. And because we are focused on this specific area, we can solve quickly the things. The cost of that is, of course, for innovation, long-term innovation. You will say, okay, it's difficult to create complex system. And definitively, when we speak about AI, we begin to speak about complex system because it will be not necessary. It will be a problem of learning. So receive the data, have a standard way of receive data, and it's working as an European company only if it was a standard. If you have a big operator that is alone in a continent could create its own way of using data. We cannot do in Europe. So we need to have a standard way to grab the data, feed the AI systems, the machine learning, that is the first step. But after, you need also a way to use it. And again, if you don't have any standard, for small operator, a middle size, I will say that all operators in Europe are small. If you're looking about the size of the innovation teams in each operator, it's not so much. And I believe that at this point, joint inside standard is the only way that we have in Europe to create some system. Will be complex and create a lot of capability also. Okay?
Excellent. Yeah, thank you. I mean, Mohamed and Rickard, perhaps Mohamed, you could go first, and Rickard, I mean, do you have any advice for any operator that's setting out on this journey?
Well, I want to follow up on Olivier, good comment. So we have observed that there was a global alliance of AI that have been established, where a few operators come together. This is really important, and the purpose is really to advance the development of telecom-specific LLMs, right? So large language models dedicated for telecom. And so there is a need to go into that direction, right? In terms of, you know, the telco is a very specific domain which need very specific knowledge, and you need to train your LLMs with the very specific data, right? And so this is the initial idea of this grouping, and it's really important. And of course, the other rationale of doing this is really to allow operators and telcos to develop their own capabilities in terms of LLMs, right? And not to rely, for example, on external third-party vendors or third-party LLMs, but they need to develop their own capabilities. And of course, this is also linked with what I have said earlier in terms of the need for having strategy and skills and data architecture. And so the things are really linked together. And so of course, developing own LLMs require maybe investment and a huge number of engineers and maybe, you know, cloud architect and you know, expert with high numbers. So it is a challenge, you know, in transitioning towards this approach. It requires culture shift, huge investment, and really clear vision and strategy. And so, but also there are other types of options for operators in order to fine-tune LLMs towards more specific, telco-specific domains like RAG or retrieval augmented generation, fine-tuning, and we saw also tendency towards moving to SLMs, right? So short language models, which are very specific to telcos and not go to large LLMs. So these are some of the things that are, you know, have been observed, and of course they require robust foundation, right? And it follow-ups, a little bit comment of Olivier.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so if I would go towards, like, if I would start implementing again, like, we're a big, like you're saying, we're a big company, but we also have, you know, a proportionate amount of problems then also internally and problems to solve. So if there's anything I would give advice on, if you're a bit smaller, I also worked at Telia, which is a smaller operator. Like, first of all, look at the lower risk implementations are with employees. In that sense, like helping employees out. So looking at just sit in a call center for a week and then see how they use the computer. And then you try to solve some of those problems that they have. And I think that you can quite immediately start looking at that, how I gave you the example of the sales agent there. In terms of the consumer-facing side, I think there's a plethora of very eager and very good companies to partner with as well. So we did that now with Perplexity. We're bringing out the Perplexity-based interface into our app to sort of start the AI journey as well there. So there are these kind of ninja moves that you can make a little bit to start helping people out internally with AI, so to speak. That would be my tip.
Excellent.
Yeah, for adding something, I really want to highlight that the fact that we will be the first user of AI for ourselves, but will be also the support for AI in another domain. I have an example of a friend who use AI. Basically, what I have put inside Gen AI is I basically put all documents, legal documents in Luxembourg are inside the AI, and as they use that for fund laws that it's matter at the moment. And it's very dedicated AI, and for that, they must have make the calculation of this kind of stuff and brings and still have an AI somewhere inside the cloud that is working for them, dedicated to a specific need of that. And for that, I think operators are apply to something to do because it needs to bring the way that the system is able to create this kind of AI easier for every domain, for everyone. And I believe it's not only about optimize our network. Of course, it's the first step because it's more easy, as you say, to deploy for ourselves in the first step. But the second step will be to help other domains to use this kind of technologies that make sense in so many domains.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Rickard, we talked a lot about how we're currently using the technology, but what would you say is next? You know, what's the next big thing in terms of being able to leverage AI on your business? Let's just say in 12 to 24 months' time.
Yeah. 12 to 24 months, yeah. So I already talked about that a little bit in terms of the next paradigm being very much on streaming. I would say that the hyper-personalization is the next real step here. And we talked about the hyper-personalized media. I don't know if the BBC is still here, but that was a very interesting angle of it. And I believe that this is sort of the direction that we're taking, and you can see that, you can easily imagine a form factor of the phone where the screen is also always sort of seen by the AI, so it helps you out in everything. So you can just say, like, if you're on a web page of I don't know, maybe some flight company, something like this, British Airways instead of British BBC, and say, oh, can you help me book this? And then it just does it for you. I've seen demos of these kind of things happening, and I think this is sort of the hybrid world we will start living in very soon, where it is a constant companion. Also, when it comes to recommendation systems, as we call them today, this will be completely transformed. So I think the very personal direction, where it really lives with you and knows you on your phone, probably talking about small language models, living on your phone and learning about you, and then helping you out in every step, or just randomly sort of helping you out on your phone. This will be reality in the next 24 months.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so we're nearly out of time, so I just want to tell, the title of the panel was how to maximize the impact of AI. So I just thought we'd finish off by asking, so if you just keep it brief, really, just kind of, what would you say is the biggest opportunity for telcos in terms of return on the investment? And start perhaps from Mohamed and then just work down the panel.
Well, the biggest opportunity, I think telcos, we are looking how to move from CSP to DSP and digitize the whole, mindset, culture, internal operations, and etc. So I think the great opportunity is when it comes to customers. So we have focus on we are a customer-centric organization. So the biggest opportunity is towards gaining and attracting and increasing customer satisfaction overall. Yeah.
Thank you. Rickard?
Customer support, customer agents. Germany, we have 40,000 customer-facing agents in Germany alone. Just as an example, if we can help them with 10% of their day, 20% of the day, 30% of their day, that would be an enormous win.
Olivia?
We just begin the work regarding computing in broad network. So basically using AI inside a broad network. So join us in the Etsy for working on that. It will be very nice. And help in a long-term perspective also.
Excellent. Okay, so I'd just like to thank the panel for sharing their insights. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Olivier. Thank you, Rickard. Thank you, Mohamed. And thank you, Michael. We're going to continue the discussion format of this latest part of our agenda in our next section by looking at shaping the future of digital trade. And to have that discussion, I'd like to welcome on stage Project Lead for Digital Trade from the World Economic Forum, Baojun, and Director General of the World Broadband Association, Martin Creaner.
Yeah, many thanks for that. And I think this is a really interesting topic, and I think it ties to some of the other topics we've discussed today as well. But the whole area of digital trade and how that interfaces with the broadband world and the connectivity world. So maybe, Boyang, you could kick off with a little bit of an introduction on how the World Economic Forum is beginning to address digital trade in a serious way.
Right, thank you, Martin, for convening us and having us here. At the World Economic Forum, we are the international organization for public-private partnership and collaboration because we understand and know that a lot of the world's problems today cannot be solved by any single sector or single stakeholder. So we prioritize multi-stakeholder engagement, and I think, Martin, you mentioned in the speech that here we're trying to find solutions for a lot of the problems we have. So digital trade has been an initiative at the World Economic Forum for many years, but recently we're trying to kind of reinvent and reinitiate this initiative, given that currently there's a lot of synergy in the industry. So we're trying to add value to this initiative that will benefit the global economy and ensure that there is sustainable and equitable growth. Obviously, digital connectivity is an important component of digital trade when it comes to connecting, let's say, different players, stakeholders along the verticals of, let's say, the global e-commerce market, a global marketplace. It is essential for future development.
And how does the World Economic Forum address this? Do you develop, say, common frameworks, usable, policy frameworks that are used by different trading blocs in different countries across the world?
Right, so there are many initiatives that are ongoing currently, either between different national governments and also within international organizations. For example, also based in Geneva, the World Economic Organization recently just come to a conclusion of a draft resolution of what's called the Joint Statement on Global E-Commerce. And what that means is that a lot of different players, national governments, have to come to an agreement that they want to deregulate, they want to have more and better market access with different players. Actually, there's also a chapter on telecommunication that's very much focused on increasing competition in the sector and also opening up more markets for foreign players and making it non-discriminatory as well as about sharing data across different borders and governments and how that will benefit the industry as a whole. So I think there's a lot of renewed energy recently about how digital economy is still very important.
Yeah, I think the whole area of sharing data across borders and initiatives like in Europe, Gaia X and so on, and Catena X, initiatives about sharing data. Can you say a bit more about, will you be supporting those initiatives? Would you be creating a new way of thinking about these initiatives? And I know there's similar initiatives in China and in other parts of the world as well.
Right. So as a general rule, there are many different, let's say, theories and also different players when it comes to, let's say, data localization or cross-border data flow. We've heard from some corporate members of the forum that they believe that too much requirement for data localization restrains their ability to compete, because what that means is that companies have to localize their data in different data centers around the world. And it's not in the position for a lot of small and medium companies to build these data centers or provide different type of infrastructure. So they have a different interest. But obviously for some other players, they will have different interests because more local data localization requirements means that they have to build more data centers. So I think at the end of the day, we will create a platform for more conversations and dialogue, and we try to bridge the gap between the public sector and private sector, and also involve different type of players, whether it's big companies, big platforms, or these small and medium enterprises, to make sure that everyone's voice is heard. And then at the end of the day, I think it would be good to have a level playing field for all of these players. And also, we also realize the importance of depoliticizing some of these policies, because sometimes there's an overhype of concerns over such requirements, but that might make it more costly for some participants in the market.
Yeah, I think, and that's an important point. I think data sharing, one of the aspects of it, or one of the very important aspects, is how it opens up ecosystems. Because if there's a neutral and trusted way to share data between trading partners, you can open up new services and new ecosystems from that.
That's right. Exactly. So I think the conversations we're having today is extremely important. A lot of the new applications in the digital economy or in digital trade will not be possible without more expansion of faster and also quality networks, and trusted and quality services from operators that are extremely important.
Could we bring this around to the, I suppose, the quality of connectivity and the availability of connectivity? Obviously, in most parts of the developed world, and we're going to talk about it at one stage later on this afternoon about our fiber development index and our broadband and cloud development index, there is very good connectivity in certain parts of the world, in lots of parts of the world. There's other parts of the world that have very weak connectivity. Is this initiative from the World Economic Forum, does it have a geographic mindset where it says, we're really about enabling digital trade in Africa?
That's right. Yeah, that's a great question. So I think one of the things we really want to do before we launch in the first days of launching this initiative is really to identify where the existing gaps in the on the world map. Where do we see the biggest digital gaps? That's why I think the index that published by the World Broadband Association is so great. It's one of the benchmarks or data we could use to identify where the frontier markets, because we really want to invest in areas where we can have better return on investment, but also to reach out to populations that are kind of forgotten or not included in the digital economy. So I think there are certain divides that's recognized by a lot of speakers and industry leaders. There is urban and rural divide, and also divide between developed markets and underdeveloped markets. And there's some champions. Like in the developing world, there are a lot of countries that have taken policies to increase investment in this sector, but there are countries that have kind of left out or have not prioritized enough investment in digital infrastructure. So I think it's really important to identify those gaps and then to reach out to some of these public sector players. And I think it's important to also strengthen the narrative of why digital infrastructure and telecom network is the fundamental technology for us to deepen and create a more inclusive digital economy.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, we constantly have conversations on this topic within the WBBA, and I think that there's a belief that, you know, in the past, maybe you can change economies by putting in high-quality roads, high-quality clean water, and so on. And now there's a strong belief that putting in high-quality connectivity or very good broadband is a third key element in opening up economies. And the opposite is true as well. If you don't put that excellent connectivity into economies, you are just accentuating the digital divide. We heard Huawei talking about 10 GPON, and in 2 years' time, we'll be back in this room and somebody will be saying 50 GPON is what we need in order to support the types of services we heard the gentleman from Deutsche Telekom mentioning just a few minutes ago. So I think that digital divide is just going to accelerate really fast if there isn't an initiative like this.
Absolutely. A lot of people talk about the digital divide, and increasingly as we're talking about artificial intelligence, there's going to be the AI divide, because the world is increasingly going to be, you know, the growing divide between people who are empowered by AI tools and those who are not. And I think the demand also for, you know, the better bandwidth and faster connectivity, lower latency will be, you know, accentuated because of the application of AI or automation. Any of the technologies that we envision as future technologies to make us more productive, more efficient, will require more investment in digital infrastructure for sure.
Yeah. Maybe we've only got a limited amount of time for this, but one thing I'm very interested in understanding is, from the World Economic Forum's point of view, what does success look like in this sort of initiative? I know that's a difficult question sometimes because there's a vision but not necessarily clear metrics maybe. But what does success look like in your view?
Right, that's a great question. So I think fortunately we have some great precedents to look at. But for example, at the forum we recently actually just announced the conclusion or the results of the Addison Alliance at the UN General Assembly. Basically, this alliance also is very focused on digital connectivity and has enabled more than 1 billion people to be connected to broadband around the world. I think this project took from about almost a decade. And we also had industry leaders from telco and other sectors to get involved. So I think the current digital trade focus initiative we're launching, we will have very measurable metrics to make sure that the impact is going to be tangible. So we're still in the process of defining what metrics would be ambitious but also feasible. Like we don't have. So I think once we're done with the feasibility study with partners like WBBA and others, we will be launching the initiative to make sure that we'll reach these targets within the time frame that we signed to, and then we'll have a very practical approach. We'll have a multi-stakeholder approach to make sure that we bring in the private sector players, the public sector, and multilateral stakeholders.
And just on that point, you mentioned public-private partnerships. What do you mean in the context of this type of program?
So I think the disconnect that often exists within the public sector and private sector is that the public sector sometimes doesn't have the awareness, or sometimes they don't have the funding, or they don't have the know-how. The private sector, obviously, they bring in the capital, they bring in the know-how, they bring in the equipment and technology, but they don't get enough support sometimes from the public sectors. But I think by bringing different players to the same stage, the same forum, to a stage like this one, would be great to generate some of this synergy. And also, I think we also need a lot of innovation in terms of how do we want to finance these projects. Because, for example, sometimes the telecom network requires years of investment, and you may not be able to get immediate return that is required by, let's say, the private capital markets. But you can have more innovative project financing to make sure that some of the sections of the infrastructure is financed by public capital, and then the private sector who are more risk averse or who are less patient on their return can invest some of the areas where they can have more immediate return. So I think a lot of these conversations could be had by involving multi-stakeholders to make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited about working with you and the team on this. I think the work that the WBBA's and the WBBA vision of excellent broadband for everyone, everywhere, it's not sufficient condition, but it's a critical condition for success in digital trade. And as you mentioned, we can take a wide range of the capabilities that the WBBA is producing and feed them into this type of program, as well as some of the other topics. And I mean, we talked about data sharing and that type of technology, and that is slightly peripheral to the WBBA, but I know plenty of people within the WBBA who are quite invested in that type of technology as well. So I think there's a wide range of discussions we can bring from this industry to the more global economic viewpoint.
Right. I definitely agree there's a lot of synergy between our organizations, and I also appreciate that a lot of speakers today kind of made the calls for action, and so we'd be happy to work together and to promote this agenda collaboratively in the future.
Brilliant. I think we'll draw to a close there. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm sure there'll be plenty more conversations we'll get to have over the coming weeks, months, and years on this.
Thank you again, Martin.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zhu Baojang, and thank you, of course, to Martin Creaner. The WBBA's working groups are really the engine room of its members' collective effort to debate and discuss and share ideas, but also to shape opinion and to drive the development of the broadband industry. Currently, the WBBA has 7 different working groups, each looking at different aspects of customer use cases or technology requirements or investment strategies. And we're very excited today to launch the findings from 2 of those working groups. And I again just want to refer you to the flyer that you have on your seat and encourage you to access the QR code so you can look at the findings, which include the impact of broadband networks on deploying metaverse applications at scale. Of course, metaverse applications are a key driver for the need of advanced infrastructure and investment in that infrastructure. And so the WBBA has been working with the Metaverse Standards Forum to create a roadmap for both metaverse applications and the infrastructure that they depend on. So please do use the QR code there to download those key research findings, interact with them, and share with us your feedback. And the second working group, which launched today, takes a specific and important regional focus. The North America Broadband Investment Guidebook, How to Formulate Your Best Broadband Strategy, looks at it's a key resource for stakeholders considering investment in the region, but also has a global application by looking at important lessons for stakeholders in other regions, making it a valuable tool for investors, operators, regulators, and market watchers from across the world. So please do use the QR code up on the screen or on the flyer on your chair, download the research, share with us your feedback, and join the conversation with the WBBA. We're now going to take a look at some important fiber market insights and recommendations through the lens of the Fiber Development Index. So I'd like to invite back on stage my Omdia colleague, Research Director, Michael Philpott.
Good afternoon again. Michael Philpott, Research Director for Omdia's Digital Service Provider Consumer team. It's been my privilege to work in the Working Group 1 of WBBA for a number of years, as Mark says, looking at the next generation of internet applications and their driver of demand on those broadband networks, and helping the WBBA in its roadmap, network roadmap to 2030. And what we've seen, over that time is that 10 gigabit services are already becoming the new premium broadband services around the world, pushing gigabit access into the mass market. If you just look at the chart on the screen here, you can see that just 10 years ago, 2013, out of the 20 select countries that we have in the analysis, back in 2013, that the highest broadband speed available in any of those countries was 200 megabits per second. Believe it or not, in China, it was only 50 megabits per second. Fast forward to 2023, and you can see that the speeds are just accelerated exponentially over that time, so that in 85% of those 20 countries now, you can get 1 gigabits per second or more. In 45% of them, you can get multi-gigabit. And this is down to the consumer, by the way. It's not down to enterprises. And in 20%, we've got 10 gigabit services on offer. And that's changing how leading countries really look at their broadband national plans. It's no longer about just getting connectivity out there. It's about getting gigabit connectivity out there so that we can create gigabit societies. But as Martin was saying in the last session, the world is not an equal one, unfortunately. As a society and as an industry, we've been a large part of that. I think we've done a very good job of just connecting people. By 2030, over 80% of the world's population will be connected. I mean, it's even higher penetration if you take out the very young out of that statistic. However, as you move to the next generation of internet applications, it won't just be about being connected. To take true advantage of those applications and services, then we need connection to a high-quality, high-speed broadband network. And that's where things just become unequal. And you can just see from the chart on this slide, in Africa, even the fact that lower percentage of people will be connected in Africa is that 50% of them will be only connected to their mobile device. Only 4% of them will actually have the privilege of accessing a gigabit broadband speed at home. And that's a massive difference if you look at North America or Oceania, Eastern and Southeastern Asia, where not only will people have the ability to get access via their mobile and broadband services at home, but very large proportions of them will have gigabit broadband services. And therefore, the next digital divide won't be just about connectivity. It will be about the quality of that connection. Now, there are technologies out there, 5G and LEO satellite technologies, that can help plug those gaps, getting fixed broadband connectivity out into the markets where it's just, at the moment, uneconomical to get that fiber connectivity. But we do recognize that fiber is still the strategic infrastructure of choice. It beats all other types of broadband infrastructure across all metrics, not just speed, but in terms of consistency, reliability, latency, jitter, et cetera, and including sustainability, of course. So by 2030, 80% of broadband connections will be over a fiber broadband network. But even then, from a legislation and regulation point of view, it's not just about getting homes connected to a fiber connection, because we still need the operators to continue to invest in next-generation broadband technologies such as next-generation PON, advanced WDM, advanced home networking technology, if they are to deliver a true gigabit experience over those connections. So the governments are no longer limited to only trying to solve fiber connectivity. They also need to create legislation and regulations that encourages carriers to continue to invest and upgrade in their infrastructure if we are to move towards this idea and concept of having gigabit societies in every country around the world. And that's why 5 years ago, this importance of fiber is why Omdia developed its Fiber Development Index. So in our 5th year of publication, and I'm delighted now that all the analysis based on all that data and information that we have is now going to be published within the WBBA. So the Fiber Development Index looks at the fiber investment across 5 different areas in terms of fiber to the coverage, WDM densities, especially when it comes to advanced WDM technology, fiber to the home penetration, fiber to the business penetration, mobile cell site penetration. And then what it does, it looks at the impact of all that investment, working with our data partner in Ookla as to the experience of broadband and how that's helped deliver a much better experience in the world. So I say all that information is now available in terms of our new white paper, which will now be published under the WBBA. Just as a side note, the Fiber Development Index is at the moment at a country level, but within the WBBA, we've also been exploring the importance of gigacities in helping develop gigabit societies on a country level. And within the Omdia, we are now working on a new gigacity index, and we'll be very pleased to work with the WBBA going forward to see how we can integrate that into the organization as well. So with that, I'll just finish by announcing that we have now released the Fiber Development Index on the WBBA. It's available already on the website, so I encourage you to go there and download the paper. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Continuing the launch of key new unique insights from within the WBBA, it's my pleasure to introduce today's Fireside Chat to coincide with the launch of the WBBA's 2024 Broadband and Cloud Development Index reports. The conversation over the next 10 minutes or so will delve into how broadband and cloud services are driving economic and social development. It will look at the transformative impact of technologies like AI and the sustainability challenges which come with the growth of these industries. We'll also lean on the index itself to explore some of the key trends, best practices, and lessons learned from the leading countries in this year's edition. To join me for the conversation on stage, it's my great pleasure to welcome Head of Network Strategy and Business Development from Swisscom, Amaury de Gromard.
Hello, Mark.
Great to meet you. How are you?
Nice to meet you. Fine.
And just before we start the conversation, I'm delighted to say that Swisscom is a founder member of the WBBA and particularly active in the working group which has been supporting the development of the Broadband and Cloud Development Index. So Amaury, thank you for being here with us today in Paris. Just to start with, on the practicalities of the 2024 Broadband and Cloud Development Index. Last year, I think there were 21 countries included in the index, and that's been expanded into 62 countries in the 2024 edition. What's the reasoning behind that expansion, and what does that increased scale mean for the relevance of the index for the industry?
Yeah, this growth is about 3 times more as last year. It's quite amazing. It has been a huge effort to reach this goal. Why did we want to make it? It's really to give an overall view on all the markets. We just don't want to focus on just one part. We want to make it big. We want to see and to point out really the relevant part.
Very good. And I think one of the key things were members bringing their own data points, bringing their own insights into the development of the index this year.
Exactly. And based on that, we are also able that when you read the book, you are able to compare yourself, to benchmark yourself. You are able to understand how the others are doing, what are really the good findings, and where you should learn. So it's really about sharing experience. And the more we are, the better we can understand, we can benchmark ourselves. I am quite sportive. I like to be on the pole position or in the third tree place. The last one kicked me.
Very good. And I think part of that is, if you're not already part of the conversation, if you're not part of the WBBA, do become part of this particular working group, contribute your data and your insights, and see how you compare with your peers. So I think one of the key findings looking at this year's report, Amaury, is the strong positive correlation between index scores and GDP per capita. Could you explain what this means for the relationship between broadband, cloud infrastructure, and economic growth?
Yeah, I like mathematics. It's about 73% of correlation. So in statistics, it's very high level of correlation. We are able really to match between the status of a country versus the status of broadband and cloud. So when we see that the development of cloud is really happening with broadband, we can really think that the health of the country is also falling. I'm not saying build FTTH to have a healthy, but it's really fiber is a foundation for healthy countries.
Very good. I think some of the other expansions we've seen this year in terms of scope and the nature of the discussion and the analysis around the index are the introduction of new metrics such as AI adoption, data center investment, and sustainable energy. Why were these metrics added? How do they reflect the future trajectory of the broadband industry?
Yeah, I think when you think about fiber, you think about light, you think about very nice solution. With AI, it's really this is the enablement for, on the foundation for the AI story. And this is going to come really in the future. We think that with this foundation, we will be able to bring all at the next level.
And I think one of the things that have been key throughout the whole event today is trying to learn from one another's experience. One of the key foundational principles of the index is to provide some guidance as to who is leading the way at the moment. If we think about the way that AI is going to, revolutionize network management in the future, I guess that's another important reason for its inclusion this year.
Exactly. That's really the next step also for us.
Wonderful. Thank you. The role of fiber broadband, of course, as we just heard from Michael, is pivotal in both broadband and cloud sectors. Can you share some thoughts around how countries, even with lower GDP per capita, are leveraging fiber infrastructure to drive growth and innovation?
Let's take the example of a high GDP, like in Europe, Romania. We see really that they have been a lot investing in fiber, and here we see really a good correlation of bringing fiber to the customer and which the level of doing the next step. If you look at the other side with Brazil, like example, then you see that with their way of doing it, with another mix of technology, they are able really to bring broadband further out, not only the city center, but they are bringing Giga they are also outside. We saw in the slide before, LEO satellite, EVA, definitely this helps.
Very good. I mean, you've name-checked a couple of countries there. If we think about this year's index and we go straight to the leaders, who's at the top and what we might learn from them, the United States and China are two of the top-performing countries in this year's index. Are there lessons that developing countries can take from those leaders?
Yeah, sure. Living in Switzerland, it's a bit tough to talk about the first one to be either US or China. But let's keep the floor a bit at our level.
Next year, perhaps, though.
Next year, let's take the meeting, rendezvous, and we will make it. But back to our discussion. US, we have seen that really are top in service penetration. They have really rolled out FTTH at a level never achieved. We see that, sure, they are in one of the pole position. They did it with public and private investments, and say how they did it. On the other side, we see on the other side of the world, China experience. We see there really a so high-performing, speed-wise, the way how to pull fiber in the world, in their country. I was really amazed of this speed, reaching people at overnight. Even what I heard is they are pulling the fiber over day, and overnight they take out the copper. So it's a double business case. I would really advise you to think about that also.
Very good, and I think that there are best practices from these countries, but also all others in that leadership cohort in the index across network expansion, regulatory frameworks, and investment strategies as well. So again, please do download the index, use the QR codes that you have access to, and find out a little bit more about what some of these countries are doing to lead the way in terms of broadband developments. On the other hand, there are countries which are finding more challenging conditions. I certainly know in this year's edition of the index, India and Egypt fall into that category. What are some of the hurdles that they're facing in broadband and cloud development, and what strategies might they want to adopt in order to unlock their potential?
So the question is, investing on fiber is always the issue of the CapEx. It costs a lot. In dense areas, the return on investment is always good. But in a more suburb area to rural area, the business case is really complex. But that was also the point of before. We saw that the difference between digital divide at the old time to now, the access to AI, I think here they have also this country to invest to make really the step forward. Otherwise, it will be really late for them to come back.
Okay, very good advice. You mentioned the fact that it's causing you some heartache that Switzerland's not yet at the top of the leaderboard. But if we think about Switzerland for a moment, and specifically Swisscom, what are some of the experiences that you'd like to share with the audience regarding your own FTTH strategy, for example? I know that you have a kind of a global leading sustainability strategy. What lessons would you like to share with the audience on some of those aspects?
Yeah, what we did is really we have been able to roll out the newest technology. Today, the situation now, it's really, we are able to offer about 50% of whole Switzerland with FTTH. which means for a country where all the top cities are rather small against comparing to US or China. But now we are going in the direction of rural areas, and we are able already now to bring 80 mega to all the customers of Switzerland, even on top of mountains. So come on the glacier, here you have still 80 mega. What we have done also, the 80 mega is not about only fiber. We bring also the 5G rollout. We are enjoying today 99% of population coverage with 5G. There is no 5G without fiber. So let's think on all the convergence that is also very important. Now what Swisscom has announced as next step, that was the question. On this one, it's quite easy. We foresee to build FTTH up to about 75 to 80% of Switzerland. And there, what we are going to think is really a new way of doing it. It's not only just bringing fiber and hoping that the customer are going to step on. It's really bringing the customers synchrone with the rollout on fiber, which means that we will be able to pull out the copper. We will be able to reduce the maintenance costs of having two platforms by just bringing the customer on the level, on the best one. When I think about the customers, that's important. What do we do for them? We are bringing them more speed, definitely. Mm-hmm. All the customers which are enjoying fiber in Switzerland is already 10 giga symmetrical bandwidth, or up to 10. And here, the quality is extremely high. Each time that Swisscom has a single outage, you can read it on a press release. And that's extremely boring. So back to sportive mindset, I tell you, when you read Swisscom had an outage, you see also where it's moving. They analyze that with cloud systems. Mm-hmm. So the measurement of Swisscom from third parties is extremely high. So we have a really challenge to keep the highest quality also on fiber, and we bring it. So for Swisscom, fiber is also synonym with cost efficiency, having only one network, and also simplicity. That's important. So last point on the fiber is really being able to bring the level of ecology or saving electricity. What we see is that we can reduce about 95% of the power consumption in the access by bringing customers from copper to fiber. Keep in mind, 95% of power saving. It's not only green, that's just perfect.
Very good. I think an important comment that you made there was always making sure to keep an eye on the customer. And I think that, I would encourage everybody when they're using the index, when they're reviewing it, when they're sharing it with colleagues, is to think about, what are the service application demands and expectations of the future that exist as context around the analysis in the index, and also, to look at the broadband technology roadmap that the WBBA has developed almost as a companion piece to that. So encourage you to download both of those things together. Amaury, finally, the Broadband and Cloud Development Index this year highlights that by 2025, broadband and cloud industries are projected to generate over $1 trillion in revenue globally. What are some of just the key factors driving this growth, and where do you see the biggest opportunities for revenue generation?
Yeah, so 1 trillion is really a nice figure. We think that it will be achieved about in 2025. Mm-hmm. This is really, the growth is going to come from higher bandwidth, more stability, availability. So it's really moving at the next level. What we are seeing is also the difference break. We are really thinking of, we are reaching a ceiling on the revenue, and now how to break the ceiling? That's the next question for us. We think that technology like 5G or 5G Plus will enable really new revenue incomes, not only for operator, but on the global way. We think also that AI will be the foundation, also bringing new opportunity on this level. What I can share with you is not only on the revenue side, AI could help. For the rollout of fiber, we are using AI to make all the quality control that a man can do. Let's take an example. You are building the fiber. At the end of your job, you do a picture. This is uploaded, and the picture is going to be analyzed, recognized, and checked with AI. Fiber rollout is important. The support of mobile rollout is even, and the complementary is really great. So you see, it's not only to be just fiber or mobile, it will be both. And this will enable really to reach the next step of bringing new revenues in the future.
Wonderful. I think we're going to leave our discussion there to keep ourselves on time. I'd just like to thank Amaury de Gromard for his insight today and support in the development of the Broadband and Cloud Development Index. Thank you, Amaury. So we've had reference this afternoon to some of the work that the WBBA has been doing with the Metaverse Standards Forum, to the work that we've been doing, and we've heard today from the OECD, for example. What that points to is the fact that collaboration with other industry organizations is a very crucial part in the promotion of the WBBA's agenda of driving broadband industry development. And the IPv6 Forum is a worldwide consortium of leading internet vendors, industry subject matter experts, research and education networks with a clear mission to advocate IPv6 by dramatically improving technology, market, and deployment user and industry awareness of IPv6, all with the goal of creating a quality and secure new generation internet. It is therefore my very great pleasure to introduce onto stage today to formalize an agreement and partnership between the WBBA and the IPv6 Forum, founder and president of the forum, Professor Latif Ladid, and chairman of the WBBA board, Dr. Liang Mao. If I could please invite Martin Creaner, Mohamed, other WBBA key stakeholders, and from the IPv6 just to join for a group photo on the stage. if I could ask... Oh.
A few words I like. Okay. So, Professor Latif, and everybody here, good afternoon. Actually, I'm very excited about this signing ceremony with the IPv6 forum. That reminds me that 5 years ago, I was selected by IPv6 forum to the Hall of Fame. Okay, I believe in the world, less than 10 persons, okay, to be into the Hall of Fame. So it's my great honor. So today, I would like to thank Professor Latif and IPv6 forum. So IPv6 is the core of new generation of internet, okay, and also a very important role in the broadband industry. So we think it's not, by just the occasion we will put together. It's natural we become a partner in this industry. So we believe WBBA and IPv6 forum can do more for the world in broadband and in new generation of internet. So thank you very much.
Maybe just Dr. Liang, if you would like to remain on stage, and Martin, if you would like to join us, we're going to now move on to the awards section of today's agenda. And it's my great pleasure to introduce these Broadband Excellence Awards proudly presented by the World Broadband Association, where over the next 15 minutes or so we gather to celebrate innovation, dedication, and excellence in the broadband industry. And this afternoon's event is just a little bit more than an awards ceremony. It's testament to the transformative power of connectivity and the groundbreaking advancements that continue to shape our digital worlds, thanks to everybody in this room, everybody in this event hall, and all of the members of the World Broadband Association. So again, let me welcome our award presenters, Director General of the WBBA, Mr. Martin Creaner, and Chairman of the WBBA Board, Dr. Liang Mao. Our first award this afternoon is for Product and Solution Excellence, which honors excellence in innovation in equipment, device, service, and application solution that will ultimately accelerate the success of the broadband industry. We had a large number of submissions for all of the categories, of course, and this one in particular, and we're delighted to announce the shortlist of finalists that you see on the screen here behind me. And it's my very great pleasure to announce the winner of the Product and Solution Excellence Award for 2024, which is Nokia.
Oh, congratulations, congratulations.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for the recognition.
Oh, congratulations.
Great to receive an award. It's even better.
Yes, I quite agree.
Congratulations to Nokia.
And I think there might be an interview now afterwards.
Congratulations again to Nokia for winning the Product and Solution Excellence category. Our next category is designed to recognize excellence in broadband application, looking at the best practices of cooperation between multiple ecosystem players across the broadband industry to drive digital transformation and to co-create services in areas such as smart cities, education, healthcare, smart hotels, home, and industrial IoT. Again, I'm delighted to showcase the shortlisted finalists on the screen here behind us, and to announce this year's winner of the Excellence in Broadband Application category, China Telecom.
So, you present this one?
Congratulations. So congratulations again to China Telecom for winning the Excellence in Broadband Application category. The third of our categories is designed to celebrate network innovation excellence towards the realization of future networks and services, looking at innovations and breakthrough technologies designed towards future networks, including network service, network security, network application, and cloud and network convergence. Again, a very esteemed shortlist of finalists for this particular category. But the winner of this year's Network Innovation Excellence towards Realization of Future Networks and Services Awards goes to STC. Congratulations.
Congratulations, congratulations, congratulations. A well-deserved award. Excellent, thank you, well done.
So congratulations again to the winner of this year's Network Innovation Excellence Awards, STC. Our penultimate award this year is for Outstanding Contribution to Network Excellence, recognizing achievements in broadband network infrastructure that demonstrate substantial revenue generation, reduction of costs of operating the network, and improvement in network accessibility, user experience, and importantly, energy efficiency. I'm delighted to showcase this year's shortlisted finalists on the screen behind me, and then to announce this year's winner of the Outstanding Contribution to Network Excellence Awards, China Unicom. So congratulations again to China Unicom for the Outstanding Contribution to Network Excellence Awards. Our fifth and final award this afternoon is a slightly different one in the sense that this is an award for Gigacity Excellence, recognizing municipalities that have successfully invested to become gigacities and promoted broadband excellence. And it's important to note that this category has been assessed against the World Broadband Association's published criteria for gigacities. There are two categories of winners this year, one for advanced cities, but also one recognizing gigacity excellence for developing cities. For advanced cities, I'd first of all like to congratulate Guangxi for winning a Giga City Excellence Awards.
Yes. Excellent. Congratulations. Congratulations. Congratulations.
And the second of our Advanced City, Giga City Excellence Awards goes to Shanghai.
Oh. No, congratulations. Congratulations. Return to your colleagues in Shanghai with that. Thank you.
Which just leaves me to announce the two winners of our Developing City Giga City Awards. The first of which I'm excited to announce goes to Algiers, to be accepted by Algerie Telecom.
Algerie Telecom. Congratulations. Thank you.
Which just leaves our final awards of this afternoon's Broadband Excellence Awards. For Giga City Excellence, our second Developing City winner, Bahrain, to be accepted by BNet.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Hey, congratulations. Congratulations, congratulations. Mohamed, congratulations. And if only they knew how fast you're moving, you'd be in advanced Giga City very soon. Thank you, thank you.
If I could ask all of the winners perhaps just to join on stage for a group shot to capture this moment, please. All the winners, if you could just join us on stage.
I think, yes. Maybe me one at one end and Dr. Lee at the other end, and the winners in the middle. The winners in the middle. Okay. Congratulations. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Very nice to meet you again. Okay, and we will see you again soon.
Yeah, I'll just do 30 seconds.
Yeah, yeah.
It just leaves me to thank all of the judges who spent many hours deliberating, reviewing, analyzing, debating all of the submissions that came in for this year's awards, and to congratulate all of the nominees and the winners from this year's Broadband Excellence Awards. Before we close, I'd like to now pass to WBBA Director General Martin Creaner for his closing remarks.
I won't keep you very long on this. We've had an excellent and engaging afternoon. I thought the quality and breadth of the presentations were excellent, right from the very start with the OECD, the excellent presentation from China Telecom on the stunning level of cloud capability that China Telecom as a company has generated. And then that fascinating presentation from BBC about the hyper-personalization. And that may be the key element which drives the demand for the sorts of bandwidth that we heard spoken about by both Stephen Bai from Ookla and from Huawei with the move to 10 gigabit and 50 gigabit. Really excellent discussion panels, including, I really enjoyed interviewing the World Economic Forum on their digital trade initiative, which I think it could be very much world-changing. And I think what we all do this job for, apart from the money and so on, is to do things that change the world and that will have a serious impact on the world. And so I think a WBBA collaboration with the World Economic Forum and with the OECD and others is going to be so important going forward. We've had some excellent announcements of the launches of the work of the WBBA, and you won't have had a chance to read that now, but if you get a moment to log in and look at those QR codes and look at the excellent work. The 4 pieces that were mentioned today are a drop in the ocean of all of the work that WBBA has been doing, but in particular, the Broadband and Cloud Development Index and Fiber Development Index are hugely important indices that will feed into every company's view of where they stand in the world, every government's view, and also into a range of projects that we do. And then finally, we had, if we hadn't talked enough about industry organizations, we had the excellent relationship we've now developed with the IPv6 Forum, formalized in a signing ceremony. But the IPv6 Forum has been absolutely central in one of the key pieces of work that the WBBA has been doing for the last 12 or 18 months on our whole cloud technology, cloud network technology synergy program output. And then, of course, the awards program to round it all off at the end. This is going to be a program that we run again and again and again as we move forward. It was incredibly hard to choose the winners this time around. And now that awareness is out there about the program and our number of members is growing and growing and growing, we're going to find it even more difficult in future years. But that's the sort of difficult that we want to have. So I will draw this event to a close. I thank you all for staying right through to the end. And I hope to see many of you at our various online meetings and collaboration work group meetings, as well as at our future events. Our next event is going to be in Cape Town at the end of November. No, that's sorry, in the first week of November. And then we will have a whole series of events running through 2025. Have a great evening and a great rest of the week. Thank you all very much.